Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be taking a look at this figure right here. This is the, and I'm going to butcher this name, I am sure, the Ekuaz or Ekuaz or something like that. It's in the title of the video, but the Ekuaz Studio 1/12 Revenger. And obviously this is a Punisher figure. I mean, there's just no getting around that. This is a knockoff Punisher, kind of done in the Mezco style with cloth goods. And this guy's been out for a while. I've been eyeballing him since I first saw him probably a couple of years ago now at this point, because I'm a huge Punisher fan, in case anybody out there didn't know. And, you know, I know he's not actually the Punisher, but he is the Punisher, right? And I'm always down for another cool Punisher figure, and I've put it off for a while, but I finally decided to go ahead and pick him up, because why not at a certain point, right? But we'll go over accessories here real quick before we get into the figure. So he does come with quite a few accessories, honestly. He comes with, I think, 3 extra sets of hands. He comes with a machete, a knife. He comes with a couple of MAC-10s, a couple of Deagles. He comes with a couple of 1911s, an AR. He's got like some extra grenades. He's got some, you know, bang effects for his guns, extra magazine for the AR, stuff like that. So pretty decent amount of accessories for this figure. Looks pretty good as far as that goes. And then, of course, here we have the figure itself. And I think he looks pretty good. Not great. As a connoisseur of, of Punisher things, but specifically action figures in this case, you know, there are better Punisher action figures out there of varying kinds, certainly. Now, obviously, the things that stand out about this most are going to be the cloth goods that are used with this to give it that kind of Mezco style. And then I would say the color, kind of going back to this dark blue, which, you know, was kind of a throwback. And, you know, it's hard to say whether or not in some of the, you know, early 80s and things like that, if Punisher was ever really wearing blue, or if, you know, in the comics, sometimes it would look like a dark blue as opposed to a black. And that may have just been because of the coloring that was used on the pages in the books to give some shading and some depth, and so they used a darker blue instead of a black. But certainly this kind of dark blue color is a color that I've seen, you know, Punisher depicted in several times, at least early on in the comics. And so I kind of like that. He's the only one I have that's got that kind of coloring. All the other Punisher I have are black, or maybe some other version of, you know, camo or something like that. So having kind of a classic, old school looking Punisher, oh, excuse me, I mean Revenger, that kind of harkens back to, you know, kind of like his first appearances in Marvel Comics, is pretty cool. And, you know, he's got some good detailing on him. We've got the nice belt there. We do have a thigh holster there, which, let me just say something about the thigh holster, which is probably my biggest complaint about this figure, to be honest, which is he comes with a gun molded in a holster. Now, he comes with 4 other handguns and no holster for any of them, and the one holster he does have, the gun is molded into it and you can't do anything with it. It's kind of ridiculous. I'm not sure why they went that route, but they did, and so you're kind of stuck dealing with that. So it certainly looks cool, but, you know, considering how many accessories and guns he comes with, like, why? Just give us an empty holster, or 2, or 3, or whatever, for all the guns that you gave us. But anyway, so we've got the tactical belt there with the magazine pouches on the front to kind of form the teeth on the skull. They do kind of ride up a little bit high for me. I feel like they should be lower, but they don't really come any lower than that. And we do have the shoulder straps there for the harness that don't really do anything because there's nothing attached to them. Gloves look nice. We've got the nice clean white gloves. It's all the nice, very clean white, kind of early Punisher just looking pretty pimp there. The boots are these plastic overlays that go over the legs there, since this is a kind of a cloth goods, kind of a Mezco-ish, costume that we've got here. Now, I've got several Mezco figures, not a lot. I don't buy a lot of Mezco figures, but I have a few. And I will say, just from going over kind of the overall structure of the figure, he kind of feels like almost more of a Mafex style figure underneath, with soft goods put over them. Just in the way that he feels and when he articulates and everything, it almost feels more like a Mafex figure, but what do I know, right? But I think it's a pretty good looking figure. The face sculpt, I think, is pretty decent. Not the best that I've seen as far as just the overall looks of the face sculpt, but certainly the details on there and the hair and everything, I think, look really, really nice. It's a really nice figure. I like him quite a bit. And you can see, we've got a few other figures back there in the background. But other than this thigh holster that doesn't really do anything, other than that, it's a pretty solid figure. He's got all the articulation that you would want. He's got really great head articulation, good tilt, looking up, looking down. He can really bend over quite a bit. He can bend back great. Again, he can do the Jean-Claude Van Damme splits and all that kind of stuff. All in all, it's a really, really solid figure. What sculpt you can see through the clothes looks good. Great accessories. Digging the old school dark blue coloring with the stark bright white. Head sculpt's good. Skull looks nice and clean. It's a really, really good looking figure, I think. But other than the holster here, the one downside is he is a true 1/12 scale figure. And I'll show you what I mean here. Even with, one of these older Punisher figures, he's considerably smaller. And this is an old school Hasbro figure before they kind of moved up to being as big as they are today. And even if you go with, let's say, this older face-off figure here, while technically they're about the same size, when you look at what they were going with here with the size of his head versus the size of his arms and everything, this presents for a much bulkier looking Frank Castle in just a smaller scale, as opposed to this, who just kind of looks like a smaller man. And so size-wise, being true 6-inch scale, it can work, and I'm certainly going to make it work into my Punisher collection. But is it really optimal for a modern collection if most of your figures are modern Marvel Legends, modern kind of 6.5-inch scale figures? Probably not. And then we get into the price. And that's where this guy, in my opinion, really, really falls short. As cool as it is, right? And I like it. I'm glad I got it. I've been eyeballing him for a while. I do want him in my collection. But the guy goes for at least $60, right? Like, that's the lowest I've seen him go for brand new. I picked him up at 5K Toys for $60 plus tax and shipping and all that. So in the end, you're talking about, I think, a little over 70. It was like $72 to get this guy. And in my opinion, as much as I'm glad that I have him, and I feel like, hey, okay, I got my money's worth out of him because I've been wanting him for a couple of years. Arguably, to be unbiased, he's not worth it. I mean, he's really not. I mean, there are plenty of other Marvel Legends figures out there. In fact, the ones you see back behind him, I think, are better representations of the Punisher, in my opinion, than this guy is. Like, again, it's cool to have this old school, just stark white on dark blue look, but these other figures are kind of cooler looking. And then the other thing about it is, well, when you compare him, since this is technically kind of sort of a knockoff, although a good one, but it is basically a knockoff, and you're talking about $60 and up for this guy. Well, you've got this guy right here, which I've already done a review on, which is the Mezco knockoff from AliExpress that I paid $30 for. And to be honest, it's a way better figure. Like, leaps and bounds better across the board. More accessories, better accessories, extra heads. The cloth goods costume just feels better made. The details on the figure itself, whether it be the guns themselves, the belt, the face mask, just the shoelaces, the details on the shoelaces, pretty much everything across the board is better on this figure. Plus, he's a larger figure that fits in better with a modern 6.5-inch scale collection as opposed to this guy right here. So, in the end, guys, like, as we drop some Punishers there in the background, I like him. I am glad I got him. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I knew he was true 6-inch scale, and I knew all the downsides before I bought him. But I can't really recommend him, to be honest. Like, honestly, there's so many other better Punisher figures that you're going to spend less money on, whether it's any one of the assortment of Marvel Legends figures that are out there, or a Mezco knockoff from AliExpress, or whatever else it might be. There are just better options. So if you're looking for just like one really, really good Punisher figure for your collection, it is not this dude. In fact, I would even say if you're looking for 5 really good Punisher figures for your collection, this isn't any of them. If, like me, however, you have a lot of Punisher figures and you're always looking for another one to add to the collection, then yeah, this is a cool addition. You might like it, you might enjoy it. It's gonna look cool on the shelf. Still glad I picked it up. But in the end, I don't really think it's worth it, and it's just something I can't recommend to anybody, to be honest. But to each their own, you make your own decisions. If you decide it's worth it for you, like I did for me, cool. But in general, I'd say stay away from it. But that is pretty much it, guys. Would love to hear what you guys say in the comment section down below. Have you seen this guy? Do you think it's worth it? If you've got him, what do you think of him? I'd be curious to hear that from you guys. But thank you guys for watching as always, and always remember to enjoy your collection.